going to do like one module a day. I mean, pretty simple stuff. I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of have an idea, because when you go into the CPA and you start studying, like you don't know the scope of what you're learning, and you don't know. I think one reason SuperfastCPA CPA is so good is because Nate gives you, hours. It's going to take this many hours. It's going to take this many weeks. You got to do this many notes. And that's very helpful, because otherwise you're just like, I got to do this thing. It doesn't mean anything.
Welcome to another episode of the CPA Exam Experience Podcast from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's episode, you're going to hear me talking with Will. Now, Will, unlike most people who are starting the CPA exam, had already heard about SuperfastCPA from one of his coworkers, and he actually purchased SuperfastCPA and his review course, which I think was Becker, at the same time. So he started right away with SuperfastCPA and the strategies that we talk about. And as you'll see throughout this episode, he did really well. In fact, he actually typically only studied about an hour and a half. We recommend usually studying for 2 hours, but he usually only studied about an hour and a half each day, did some of the mini sessions, studied a lot on the weekends, and he was able to pass all 4 exams first try in about 8 weeks each, and that includes him taking a break between some of the exams when his son was born. And I think this is a great episode because Will gives a lot of great tips about how he was able to pass the exams in that fashion, in just 8 weeks for each exam, even taking a break when his son was born. So make sure you listen through for the whole episode because he has a lot of great tips. Now, before we dive into the episode, I want to give everyone another reminder about our SuperfastCPA training webinar on SuperfastCPA.com. That is 1 hour where we will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam for free. So make sure you go watch that because that will be super helpful in your process. And after you watch that, you're going to want to learn more. So make sure you also check out becoming a SuperfastCPA Pro member. Pro members get access to a lot of great stuff, including the Pro course where Nate explains in detail exactly how you're supposed to pass the CPA exams. It's kind of like a much more in-depth version of our 1 hour webinar, and Will does talk about that in the interview, so be looking for that. And SuperfastCPA Pro members also get access to our full versions of our walkthrough videos. I, for the last almost 2 years, maybe more like 1.5 years, have been working on multiple choice question walkthrough videos for almost every topic in the blueprints for each of the exams. I've done almost every topic in FAR, almost every topic in audit. I'm currently working on bar, and I've done quite a bit for reg and TCP, and I'm going to come back and finish those at some later point. So again, check out becoming a pro member because they get access to the full versions of those multiple choice question walkthrough videos because the smaller versions are on YouTube. So if you want the full versions, become a pro member. Now, with all that, let's dive into the interview with Will. Good morning, Will. Thanks for hopping on the call today. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast. And I remember seeing you in the forum, so I'm very excited to hear your story. How are you doing this morning?
Good, Logan. Here we are. Yeah, just like I said earlier, taking in the view, chilling on the patio, drinking coffee.
Not having to worry about the exam anymore.
No, it's definitely not. Just kind of just family and work. All I got to worry about.
Awesome.
Takes a lot off your plate.
Exactly, and we'll definitely dive into that. So let's just start with the beginning. So, how did you get into accounting, and how did that lead you to wanting to become a CPA?
Well, I had cousins in accounting, and it was like, people, you see your family members do something, they have a good life, they'll do that. And CPA just seemed like the natural thing to do. If you're going to do something, might as well do it right, be the best at it.
Okay, so you saw people who were successful as accountants, and you're like, well, if I'm going to be an accountant, then I should be a CPA. So that makes sense. So how did you dive into the CPA? Like, how did your journey start with that?
I delayed it for a couple of years out of college because I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be done with studying, and I didn't need it. I'm in oil and gas. That's my industry.
Okay.
And you don't need it for that. I mean, people will tell you you don't need it to move. But I figured in the remote work environment that I am in now, and then the semi-remote environment, also applying for jobs, whatever. It's 3 magic letters, and it just basically proves your competency and your intelligence without even having to do an interview. So I figured it'd be valuable in that sense, and I don't know. I really don't know. It doesn't help me in my career at all. I mean, it helps me insofar like that I'm studying accounting and I'm learning, the periphery of what I do day to day. Like, it's good things to know, but I probably could have just locked in and learned a lot more about oil and gas and been there for my career. But, this is the world we live in, right?
Right. And the thing about it is, who knows if you'll stay in oil and gas forever,
It's true.
and who knows what job you'll need or want in the future, or even if you do stay in oil and gas, maybe that would just be that one small thing that would put you above somebody else who was pretty much the exact same as you. Who knows? Uh, so you kind of dive into it. So you took a couple years off of college and then you dove into the CPA. So what did you do to start? Did you get a review course? How did you start?
Well, first I had to get the hours. So I
Right.
just did the random college hours because I didn't have 150 yet. The
Okay.
first thing I did when it was actually time to study SuperfastCPA CPA was recommended to me by a coworker. So
Oh,
you were on
okay.
my radar from the very beginning. I wanted to do it right, and he had done it all the first time in a short time. He did it faster than I did, but I wasn't, whatever. He's smarter than me, whatever. So he did it. He did it, yeah, and I was like, I'll just do it this way, that'll be the way to go. So I started with SuperfastCPA CPA, and then I did Becker as well.
Okay. So was Superfast CPA, did you get Superfast CPA before you even got a review course
Well, I bought them at the same time.
at the
Like it
same
was just
time?
like a it
Okay.
was like a Black Friday thing where I was just like everything was like cheaper. I was like, okay, I don't have an excuse right now. Like if I don't get them today, it means I'm just
Wasting
procrastinating
money.
for no reason. Exactly. Yeah, procrastinating and wasting money. So I was like, I'll just send it. So I got them all in one
Okay.
day.
All right. That makes sense. So, and your coworker, you were saying that they had used Superfast CPA and passed them all. And what did they say to you that made you interested in Superfast CPA?
He talked about the integration with the phone and just making study time out of your dead time or your scrolling time. Because I'm like, we waste so much time on
Hmm.
your phone, and so I was like, that's really genius to turn like Instagram time into study time. I mean, and especially if you're the kind of person who worries or like who doom scrolls or something like that,
Hmm.
you could turn that into something productive. And so that really resonated with me. I actually ended up not scrolling as much, just period, because that was just something I was trying to do. But I still found the super fast CPA tools helpful, like when I did, get on my phone and stuff like that. So,
Right.
answer that question.
Yeah. And so you bought Superfast CPA from the start, and we'll talk about, the app in a little bit, but you started with Becker as well. And so did you just start with Superfast CPA right from the beginning? Like, did you actually use it right from the start, or was it kind of an adjustment period?
No, I was very intentional about implementing it. I wanted to do it right, didn't want to piddle around. So
Mm-hmm.
I bought the super fast CPA, and then for a couple weeks, I think yeah, a couple weeks, I waited and kind of sat on it. I did the review course, which was pretty helpful because I
The
had
pro
it. That was
course?
like, yeah, the pro course.
Okay.
I watched all those videos, and then I like made a plan of how I would do it and kind of wrote out what I would do. I don't know. Sometimes it's easier to do something if you've kind of visioned it out already. So that's kind of what I did. Like for a few mornings, I just did the pro course, and then I
Right.
actually began doing the questions first, planting seeds, yada yada that Nate talks about.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually I'm curious about that. So you had the pro course, you watched that, and what did you do for like the plan? Did you lay out like daily goals or like what you wanted to do every day? Like, I'm just curious what you did to kind of prepare before you dove into doing everything.
I had initially, I mean, the stuff I did initially, I actually ended up not doing, but I think it was just
Okay.
helpful to like have, an
Yeah.
idea of something. So I had like an Excel sheet where I would like type all my notes, and so I had like that already, and then I was going to do like one module a day. I mean,
Hmm.
pretty simple stuff. I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of have an idea because when you go into the CPA and you start studying, like you don't know the scope of what you're learning,
Hmm.
and you don't know. I think one reason Superfast CPA is so good is because Nate gives you, hours. It's going to take this many hours. It's going to take this many weeks. You got to
Hmm.
do this
Yeah.
many notes. And that's very helpful because otherwise you're just like, I got to do this thing. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And who knows for how long.
Yeah.
I found that helpful too. Like, when I was doing it, I found setting kind of a timeline. Like, I try not to push people too much to be like, you have to do it in 6 weeks, But I do think that having that goal of like 6 to 8 weeks or something like that, like something concrete, can
Mm-hmm.
really help kind of motivate you and keep you focused. and I'm guessing that you found something similar. And so you
Yeah.
started studying with the questions. And how long did it click right away, or was it kind of difficult to do that process from the start with multiple choice questions first?
No, that's actually is another reason I like to profess CPA, because it resonated with how I would like study in college. I was not a diligent studier in college, but I could get away with like, last minute cramming, basically doing questions first, because it is such a it's a valid way to study. You're not really learning the material for life. You're just learning how to answer this kind of question.
Yeah.
And so it's I thought it was a very aware way to study, and so it resonated with my experience, and I made a lot of sense.
And so did you do everything right from the start? You're doing MCQs, you're doing mini sessions, studying on the weekends, that stuff?
Yes. Yeah, I wanted those are the big three, right? So I did MCQs, definitely did that first. If I had a 2-hour study session, that would be an hour and a half. If I did an hour and a half study session, that would take pretty much 75% of whatever study session is doing questions for the first time. And then, obviously you're note taking while you go. So that, I guess I would consider that as part of, I could just walk you through like a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to hear everything.
So let's just be realistic. A lot of the time, my study sessions were like an hour and a half in the morning, not 2. And I would go through the questions for whatever module it was. If it was a 50-question module, I might get through half of it. If it's a 12-question module, maybe I'll go through 2. Go on Quizlet while I go, typing out whatever I see. Now, it doesn't even have to be something I go back and read later. It's just the process of lingering on a question, looking at it, thinking about it, just for that much longer helps. And then you move on. And then at the end of that session, sometimes it's a 30-question, but sometimes it's a 20-question mini test that I would do. And then throughout the day, maybe not till lunch, would I think about it again? You could do a thing on your phone. Maybe at the end of the day, do another one. Maybe I'll go through the Quizlet ones I did that day, but maybe not. And then if I was feeling anxious about it, like before bed, just do 15 to 20, So during the week, that's pretty light. That's not very much. And then, of course, on the weekends, hunker down at like Starbucks or something. And then for like 4 to 6 hours, knock out maybe a module and then TVs. Yeah.
And so would you do your studying in the morning, like your hour and a half or so in the mornings?
Yeah, before work.
Yeah, okay. And just curious, like you you don't have to get too personal, but like what was your life situation at the time, and did morning sessions make it a lot more manageable? Like, did you have family? What was work like? Yeah, what did that look like?
Yeah, so I started in December 23, and at that time I had just my daughter, and she was about I guess was she 2 yet? No, she was not. Anyway, but she was sleeping good at that time, so I could rely on her. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
So yeah. At that point, I'm not like waking up all the time or whatever. So that was probably the easiest point. Just studying for FAR, and then I guess through another point, I guess for reg and for TCP, I had my son William. But my wife is a stay-at-home mom, so it's like in the mornings, like she can handle it if I'm studying.
Yeah.
It's as far as like you're saying, does it help to have like evenings free? Like absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. You're able to actually like get your studying done, then go to work, and then come home and actually spend time with your kids and wife. And for the re-review in the mornings, so you would always do like 75% you're planting the seeds, right? And then you would do your re-review. And was that like, did you always do re-review, or was that something that wasn't every day? I'm just curious.
When you say review,
like the
questions at the end?
The review quiz after you've done planting the seeds in the morning.
It felt like a failed study session if I didn't get to that. Of course it wasn't. I would say like that's actually the biggest thing, is to just not beat yourself up when that doesn't happen. But it was definitely a complete study session that I felt good about when I could do. But it's stressful. When you go through that many, especially if you're, I consider myself pretty good at taking tests, but it's still stressful. Like especially FAR, it's like you're just boom, 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 boom. And then at the end, you have to test yourself on it. And it's just stressful. And so
Yeah.
I don't know, probably not as stressful as like working on an oil rig or like having a, at a coal mine or something. It's like, it's
Yeah.
obviously, it's like I'm just being a baby, but it's, if you don't do it, it's fine. But definitely a successful morning study session is like with that 20 to 30 questions at the end, maybe 15 if you really don't have time, because you kind of want to have time to review what you
Yes.
did on the review. So it's like you have to cut it off at some point. You got to go to work.
Yeah. I actually talk to people about that a lot, that there's really two parts to the 30-minute review or however long it is. There's the actually doing the review quiz, but then you need to actually have time to go over what you did, and especially the things that you got wrong, because otherwise there's kind of no point to doing it. Like you're missing kind of like the most important piece, which is getting stronger in the things that you are struggling with. So the reason I bring that up is because exactly what you said. If it takes you doing 15 questions instead of 30, then do that so that you can actually still review them. I personally did most of the time for like my last 3 exams. So after my first exam, I did 20 questions every day. Like I almost never did 30 during the 30 minutes because I was too slow to be able to do that many questions and review them. So I like what you said there.
I read that on the forum once, and I was like, that just gave me permission. I felt so much better
Yeah.
about it, about
Yeah.
just kind of, you just like, you really can do it with just 20 questions. Maybe that should be the new guideline,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that it's a good goal to get up to 30 just for speed on test day. But I think that it's okay to build up to that instead of starting like trying to make yourself do it right from the start, because so many people, like seriously countless people at this point, are like, I can't do it in 30 minutes. I can't, like, it's too much. I can't do 30 questions. And so, yeah. And just curious, with kind of like the whole morning session, what did it look like for you to like learn from the questions? Like you kind of mentioned Quizlet and stuff like that, but what would you do when you were learning from questions for the first time? And then what did your review look like as well?
Becker is nice because they have videos explaining concepts. So I would not watch the long videos. Skip that. Skip movie time. But when you're actually doing the questions for the first several, I don't know, for the first several questions, they'll have whatever the guy being like, wow. He'll tell you like in a 3 or 4 minute thing. And those are actually very helpful. 3 or 4 minutes, do that 3 times. And I would consider that part of your multiple choice question times.
Okay.
Also, always read the descriptions, explanations of everything, what you got right and what you got wrong. It's just that's just the fastest way to understand it, I think. The descriptions for every question, I mean, that's your reading right there.
Yeah.
You think, what else did I sometimes read the textbook. I would like kind of just drill down, you kind of treat that as, if I really don't understand something, if I'm getting to the end of a module and I'm still not getting a concept, you just drill down, read the textbook, read a page. It's not that bad. So, and I would consider that part of this planting the seeds.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I think that I like what you said there, because, we constantly are saying, don't read the textbook, don't watch the video lectures. But what we really mean by that is that shouldn't be your focus. But I like that you're saying, are they called skill builder videos? I think those might be what you're talking about, where like
Sure.
they have like those small videos to explain like one concept.
Yes.
And that's much more helpful than watching a 20-minute lecture going over like 10 different concepts. And then for the textbook, a lot of times those can give you a little bit of extra context, even though the questions really have most of what you need, because that's more likely what it's going to look like on test day.
Yes.
But sometimes if you need to understand something, the textbook is great. So I really like what you're saying there. And so, you have your morning sessions, and I think you kind of mentioned it, but what did your studying look like throughout the rest of the day? You kind of said it was kind of light. So did you listen to audio notes, mini quizzes, all that stuff?
Audio notes, not really. On far, I use them a little bit, like on a run, like if I was just feeling stressed. But then I'm just like not really thinking about it. I don't know. I have a hard time focusing on accounting notes. From like, as a bird. I just it's just a hard thing. I think I read through the PDF notes. I think I read through that once for FAR, but questions is the way to go for me. I thought that was the most stress relieving because that's what you're going to do on the test is questions, and so that's what I felt. That's what I felt was the most. And the way that you guys have questions on the app, it's like you do the question and you read the explanation. So it does feel, and it's one and the other. It's a little mystery and then mystery solved.
Yeah. We purposefully make them pretty straightforward, but you're still kind of getting the concept. And so you didn't do too much audio notes, didn't do too much review notes. Which,
before the test, I would. Before the test, I would.
Yeah. Okay.
Like do 48-hour cram sesh. I would feel guilty if I didn't do it. So maybe on some level, it like just pierced into my brain, like hypnopedically, like while I was sleeping after, just kind of like listening to it. But it was just not it's not the focus. It was just kind of something I did up towards the end to cram.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about your cram session at the end too. But for the mini quizzes, how often were you doing those throughout the day? Were you doing a ton, or was it just like a few throughout the day? I'm just curious what those looked like.
I would feel good if I did a few at night, just kind of to see where I was at. It was more like a pulse and take my pulse. Like if I'm doing these and I'm getting, less than 60%, and I just started, no biggie. If I'm getting closer to the test, and it's the end of the day, I'm doing 15, and at the end of the night, I'm doing all right. It's kind of maybe it's a gauge of how hard I need to study this weekend. But as far as like during the day, I didn't think about studying very much.
Right. So for you, it seems like the biggest benefit of SuperFast CPA was the studying in the morning and kind of like the strategy of how to approach it with the multiple choice questions first, and then just having a little bit of supplement like when you needed it throughout the day. But sounds like that was kind of mainly what really worked for you. What would you say? Because I typically ask what was your main struggle before finding SuperFast CPA, but you started with SuperFast CPA. So
with the pro course, like that was my framework in the beginning.
That was like how you started. So what would you say were the biggest benefits of getting SuperFast CPA from the start? Like, what do you think it changed about your perspective for the CPA exam?
Well, I would have wasted a lot of time watching videos. I would have done it the right way according to Becker, But it helps because it's like they say your exam day. I wasn't technically exam day ready for any test.
No, I wasn't either.
But I got it done quicker, I think. So I guess I would say what exam day ready looked like was very different with SuperFast CPA than with, and I did use quite like especially for FAR, like if somebody's like not sure how to study, like I would just maybe buy like one thing. I got all four because they were on sale, but I would just get like just one module of SuperFast CPA and try it out. Because like for FAR, that was the most just facts with math, and so to practice that over and over again. I got lazier as I went on, but with FAR, I was using questions a lot more. Like that was just throughout the day. Let me see, Logan, what was your question again?
Like what benefit did SuperFast CPA give you from the start? Like I'm guessing that. Let me kind of rephrase it a little bit. I'm guessing that before you heard about SuperFast CPA from your coworker, were you planning on just doing the normal way? Like, were you kind of preparing to be like, I'm going to watch all the videos and all that stuff? Like, what was your mindset before you found out about SuperFast CPA?
Yeah, I guess I was just going to do it by the book because I hadn't begun a study process yet. I just probably been whatever Becker was like, welcome to Becker study, blah, blah, blah. Here you go. Because like I said, I just kind of wanted to do what everybody else did. I didn't want to do it a especially unique way, but it was like, okay, well, here's a way to do it super fast.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we haven't really gotten to talk about this very much yet, but we've talked about your process. How did the exams go? So did you take FAR at the end of 2023? Is that right?
No, what did I do it? Beginning of 24. Yeah.
Okay, so you were doing this whole process during like the worst possible time to take the exams as far as the release dates,
Yes.
Like did you have to wait like 5 months to get your FAR score?
It was agonizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really terrible. So I took it February 12th, I think it was 24, and then I had to wait until it was like June 24th
Mm-hmm.
of 2024 to get my score. And so I didn't study. Well, actually, I did. I started studying for odd. Did I actually take audit? Yeah, I think I started studying for audit before I even got my FAR score, and I'd waited like several months. So once I found out I passed FAR, it was like I got an 80. Once I found it, I felt like you could do any of them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But up until that point, I was like, all my FAR studying was in vain. All my audit studying is in vain. Like I just
Yeah.
But like once you pass one, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
it feels like you passed
Especially
them all.
and especially with those release dates in 2024, it was especially that first one. That was just I remember being annoyed all the time for people because I was like, man, they have to wait. If they took it in January, they had to wait almost 6 months. Uh, so like, and did you take you so you took FAR and then you were studying for audit slash you hadn't taken audit yet by the time you took FAR. I mean, found out your score for FAR. And then what did it look like after that? Because the score releases were a little bit better after that, like more like every 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
So did you pass all of them first try after that? Like, how did the rest go?
Yeah. First try, all four. 4 for 4.
Awesome.
I'm happy about that. That's all I cared about, honestly. I didn't care about how long it took me to study. I just wanted to do it one and done for each one.
Yeah.
So for FAR, I got an 80, audit 83, no, audit 85, reg 83, and then TCP 86. And just
Dang.
smooth sailing the whole time. Was
Yeah. Those
so
are fantastic
happy.
scores. Yeah. I remember seeing your posts in the forum and I just thought I thought it was awesome, especially like you actually a little bit earlier you mentioned that you kind of got a little bit lazier with time, but your scores got better, I would say. So then that just means that you had the process like totally nailed down.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, but just more efficient, I guess. But I would even like with TCP, I would kind of wish I had done that that test. That one just felt like a review of reg in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not even studying every day for TCP. I don't know. I don't want to be like spreading, misinformation on you.
Yeah.
But that's really
Yeah.
truly what happened for me. And then I wouldn't even study every day on the weekend. TCP was, but then again, when TCP came around, when the test actually came around, I was like, I didn't do enough. It was like Judgment Day.
Yeah.
I was like biting my nails, but no, it was fine.
So I'm actually really curious about. I feel like something I want to talk to people more about on the podcast as time goes on is their experience with the discipline exams, because it's kind of still a new thing. So what was your experience with TCP? I mean, that one has by far the highest pass rate.
Yes.
Did you find it pretty easy, or what was that like?
Yes, you're right. I did research which had the highest pass rate before I took it because I wanted to do it the easy way.
Yeah.
As I think you should with most things. Do it the easy way if you can. It has like a 77% pass rate as compared to 40 for some of the others. So I'm like, why would anybody do the others? And then even like the ACPA is like, well, it's skewed because of tax professionals. I'm like, no, it's not. I think it's because it's a review of regulations. And so if you can get reg under your belt, TCP follows pretty nicely. You're using a lot of the same concepts, and there's no math, really. I don't think there's any math. I mean, you're doing like tax returns, but that's more advanced organizing, a little bit of math. So as far as my experience with TCP, the study was a lot easier. The tests, of course, they're all hard. I took 4 hours. I took the full time on every test. It took 4 hours for all of them, and they're all grueling, and none of them are easy. But I guess I got the highest score on it, so.
And yeah, I think that's probably true with TCP as far as what you were saying, that because I've been making material for the discipline exams now, and I when I was making material for TCP, it felt really similar to reg. Like I was like, I swear I covered this already in reg. But for bar and ISC, I don't think it's quite the same. It's not the same continuation. Like with bar, I think it's basically takes FAR concepts and doesn't just expand on them, but like adds like way more difficult concepts and some stuff from BEC. And then ISC is kind of similar to auditing, but it's just a totally different realm, like totally like IT and stuff like that. But TCP really is just like very similar to reg. So I think that makes sense that it would be a little bit easier than the other two, because it's like, especially if you've taken reg, then that means you've already done a lot of the prep work for TCP. So that's cool to hear your experience with that. I want to talk to somebody who took bar, but very few people have taken bar, because I think it's the hardest exam.
Yeah, do the easy thing. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to do it. They make it so hard for everything else. The CPA exam. It's just do the easy thing if you can on this one. It's like, it's not a work of art. You're just taking a test. Do the easy way.
Right. I think that's a good idea. And maybe we'll just tell everybody to take TCP.
I think going back, if I could do it first, I would take TCP first, and then I would do reg. Because then you're like, if you're not in the habit of taking tests again, it's like, to do FAR was like you're doing math again, and you're doing like the hardest, most expansive in scope. And then you're just stressed out, right? But TCP, it takes less time to prepare. So if you fail the first time, maybe but you take TCP the first time, you're just kind of getting back into the habit of studying, and then by the time you get to reg right after that, you're like, you've already been kind of studying for it. That's kind of what I wish I'd done a little bit. I mean, it's nice to get FAR out of the way, but our stress.
So just to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying there, you feel like for yourself, it might have been better to do TCP, then reg, then maybe FAR or audit, instead of doing FAR first. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like right out the gate, it was kind of nutty. But yeah, TCP was super easy. It wasn't super easy. It was a hard test, but it was like comparatively, as far as studying went, it was much easier.
Yeah. And it also was your last exam too, which I felt somewhat similar with. Reg was my last exam. I did work in tax at the time, but I definitely feel like I was at my laziest when I was doing reg. Like, it kind of like instead of doing 2 hours, which I'd been like super strict with the other ones, with reg, I was studying less, but like getting through the material more quickly, because I had the whole process down. And I think that's seems to be what happened for you. You just like had it down by that point.
Yeah.
And I'm actually curious, kind of talking about that. Do you feel like your skills for preparing for the exams, like, I mean, obviously, but at the same time, do you feel like they improved a lot as time went on? Like, did you find yourself just easily getting through multiple choice questions because you were so good at it?
I mean, certainly within a module, that's how it goes, And I guess you could say on a macro level for each. I keep calling the big ones modules as well as the little modules. Like, I can't think section. I think section is the word I'm looking for.
Section. Yeah.
As far as sections go, yeah, I did notice a progression where it got easier, but also I think FAR just might be the hardest section, and so everything after that is like falling action. Yeah. So yes, to answer your question.
Okay. And then, kind of to change gears a little bit, you mentioned this, but what did your weekends look like? So you said you would do, you'd go to Starbucks, study like 4 to 6 hours. What was your strategy for the Sims when you were studying on the weekends?
I usually try to get through maybe just 2 to 3, even 2 to 3 Sims, and just get familiar, know how they're going to trick you. There's only so many ways they can trick you, and it seems like there's a lot of Sims, but maybe once you've done 10, you've kind of done them all. There's the ones that use Excel. There's the ones that are basically just multiple choice. Those are a gift. Whenever you get the one that are just multiple choice. Have you seen, like, those are great. So yeah, I just get through like 10, and then maybe you've done them all at that point. And then I would also use it to get through extra modules, maybe on Sunday. So there's no rules. Okay. Just kind of get it done. Just get everything you can done. It'll give you a completion bar. Of course, you ignore the videos.
With the Sims, from what you're saying there, it was more of a focus on learning how to do the different types of Sims rather than seeing every single Sim in your review course.
More or less. I did not do all of them. That was another way, I guess. But you gotta just get through them, and they're still. When you do a multiple choice question, it's 1-to-1. It's question and answer, but the Sims are more abstract, and they play off each other. The questions interact, so you're kind of getting a more 3D feel of whatever the concept is.
Yeah. And how did you take I guess just in general, how did you take notes? You kind of mentioned it already, but just to kind of hit on it again, did you make flashcards? You made notes in Excel? Just how did all that look as far as when you were doing MCQs and when you were doing Sims?
Yeah, so we had a Sims window open here. I have my 2-monitor Sims window, my Quizlet. And then the Quizlet, I guess it's a flashcard, but the way I would write them is not really intelligible as a flashcard. It could just be, just write what you see. Just write what you see. I've never been good about using flashcards, but I think the practice of just kind of wiring it in your head one more way. You've seen it, you've typed it, you've read it twice. That's more, that's deeper. That's implanted in your brain a little bit deeper. So, don't worry about having good grammar or anything like that.
Yeah,
I always kind of wonder, like, am I doing a copyright infringement on Becker? I kind of thought about that sometimes. I'm just like putting there's literally word for word. So on the Quizlet.
Yeah. So I'm sure that thousands of people have done that at this point.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So for you, flashcards, it sounds like were less of like trying to make your own flashcards and more about just having it as one more way of having that information in your brain, like one more way to help it be drilled in. Is that right?
A way of dwelling on the question,
right,
in a more intentional way, just a little bit longer, in a way that feels like you did something.
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned Excel as well. Did you also have an Excel sheet where you took notes or did equations, or was it mainly with Quizlet?
Yeah, Excel, that was for about a week, and it's just ugly.
Okay.
Quizlet actually looks nice, so switched to that.
And just curious, like, I personally don't love Quizlet because I feel like it has a ton of ads. Was that your experience? I've always liked Brainscape just because it doesn't have any ads. But does Quizlet have a whole bunch of ads? I'm just curious what your experience was with that.
I use an ad blocker, but
okay, that makes sense.
Brainscape is better because when actually there was a time when my ad blocker stopped working. It was just like, this is disgusting. Or you go through like 3 things. That's like, go to Taco Bell. And it's like, what's
Yep.
Just try every like 3 things you click. It's like a page full screen. Yeah. So Quizlet stinks actually. So use Brainscape.
I wasn't saying that like you shouldn't be using Quizlet, but I was just curious what your experience was with that. And it makes sense that it wasn't too bad if you were using an ad blocker. But when I've reviewed other, like in the coaching program, I'll review people making their flashcards, and if they're using Quizlet, I'm just like, there's like ad here, like I feel like it's so distracting. So use an ad blocker if you're using Quizlet. Take that from Will, or use Brainscape. And then, so I mean, we've covered a lot of stuff. We've covered a lot of the basics, really. Now, I do want to ask about something I remember seeing in the forum. Did you have a tradition for exam day? And also, I think you had a tradition for when you passed your exams. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I just made a little bit where I would I just thought it would be funny to be like, an accountant who's like so uptight, enjoys 12 ounces of Miller Lite whenever he passes the CPA exam.
Yeah,
like that's my finally time to let loose. So that was my bit, and then of course every time I drank more beer. So by the end, it was
more it was like 20 or 40 ounces or something like that.
Yeah, it was like something. It was like 3 beers, like by the end. So yeah. By the time
did you actually do it?
Of course, but
okay.
Of course, I also drink. I drink. I drink a beer like every day. So of course when I celebrated, I was in town with the fam.
Yeah.
So there's a really good local brewery called True Vine in Tyler, Texas. You ever go there? It's one of my favorites.
Tyler,
Berries and
Texas,
unicorns. Nice. Yeah, so that's what I get. Berries and unicorns. At least 36 ounces. Let's just put it that way.
At least, if not more. Nice. I remember you saying that in the forum, and I remember Nate, he was like, that actually made me laugh like out loud when he read that. The first time that you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And did you have a tradition for test day as well? Like, did you have anything that you did on exam day that you always did the same? I'm just curious what exam day looked like for you.
Yeah. I don't know why. So I live in a small town in North Texas, and the nearest testing center would be somewhere in Dallas, or the Metroplex. And I wasn't trying to drive an hour the morning of. That just seemed like now I got to go. Dallas traffic. I'm sure it's probably the same every big city, but Dallas traffic is stinks. So I would go spend the night at home in East Texas in Tyler, and then just take a test
okay.
there. And so that was kind of like I did like a little pilgrimage, and I get to see mom and dad and my sister, and it was kind of like de-stressing in that sense to go see them and then take a test. So it's actually kind of something I look forward to, just for one night and then come back the next. It's only a couple hours away, so that was my tradition.
I like that.
I did that for all of them. Yeah.
You did the same thing for all of them. So you would, and did you go yourself or did you bring your family as well? Like was it like a family visit or was it just you?
On the last one, it was. On the last one, we all came, but usually it would just be, Sunday night after the 48-hour cram sesh was over, drive to Tyler, put on a book or some music and just relax,
Right.
be done. Actually, I wouldn't always be done with studying, but that was the idea, was to be done by studying by the time I go. And then the next morning, you take the test.
Right.
Yeah.
And for the 48-hour cram session, did you do kind of what we recommend where you just did like 6 to 8 hours, like for 2 days? What did that look like?
I mean, it's miserable, but it works. Yeah, just exactly what you say. For the simulated exams, I would save those until the very end. I would save those. I would not do it on Becker's timeline. So Becker has, for each, I guess there's sections within each section where they have, modules. They need to come up with better words for this, right? Right? I just need to learn them. But there would be like mini exams, and then there would be simulated exams, and I would save those all for the last week. I would do them all in the last week, and then my 48-hour cram sesh would be doing a simulated exam on Saturday and a simulated exam on Sunday, and I would review the results of both of those exams and kind of fill in the blanks with where I was missing stuff. That was my 48-hour cram sesh. So SE1, SE2, and then review.
Okay, that may, that's something that like people can choose to do. But did you like doing it that way? Like, did you find that it was helpful to do the simulated exams instead of kind of just doing more review quizzes and sims and things like that?
I think it did help, and it's like you're doing the thing. It's almost like you're borrowing some of the stress from the next day. It's like Michael Caine, the actor. He's like the rehearsal is the work and performance is the relaxation. And so if you could kind of, apply that to studying and testing, do have a really stressful and hard Saturday and Sunday, so that when Monday comes around, this is the third test you've taken in 3 days, and you feel a little bit more relaxed. Performance is relaxation.
Yeah, right, exactly. And he's a great actor. As far as I actually think that is a big reason behind what we say for the 48-hour cram session. Like whether you do simulated exams or you just do like tons of multiple choice questions and simulations, you've been doing so many multiple choice questions and simulations leading up to taking the exam that hopefully that takes a lot of the stress off, like actually being at the exam, because you've done this hundreds of times at that point. And did you find that to be the case? Like when you were at the exam, did you feel like I've got this, or were you nervous? I'm just curious.
So yes, I'll say for everything on the exams, for the multiple choice questions, I was shocked at how easy the multiple choice questions were on FAR when I got there, on all of them. But like for my first test, I'm like, this is so easy. Don't get lulled into a false sense of security, because the TVs come around and they kick your butt just as hard. But as far as the multiple choice goes, you've done so many, you've been practicing, just knock them out as fast as you can, and then get to those TBs, because those are as hard as they ever will be. I mean, so that's what kicks your butt, and they'll make you feel like you failed and you're a failure and you have no future.
I would say task-based simulations are typically the thing that even when people are doing super fast CPA, they'll still come back and really beat them up because they didn't prepare for them very well, or they were only focused on the multiple choice questions, and then they didn't save time for the sims or something. But you were obviously able to make it through, although it took kind of like your full 4 hours every time, but that doesn't matter. But I mean, that in the end, you passed all 4 exams first try over the course of how many months was it? Like 8 months or something like that?
I took a big break whenever we had William, my son, the third, anyway. And his social security number, by the way. So he's I started in February. I started in February 23, and then I just finished. When did I just finish? I got my last score.
It was pretty recently.
Pretty recently in May. I guess my last test was in April, so a little over a year. But I took a big break. I took a big break in between audit and reg. So there you go. You can do it faster, but what's the rush?
Yeah, and I mean, taking out those months that you were taking a break, you still did it pretty dang quickly when you consider how much time you were actually studying.
Yes.
So I mean, that's awesome.
8 weeks. I used 8 weeks every time.
8 weeks for every. Okay, and that's a good timeline. I think that between 6 to 8 weeks is plenty for most people if they're really like actually doing the process fully.
Well, and you can take like a break for like spring break or something. So I did that a few times.
Yeah. And so you would take a break from studying completely, or would you still kind of have light studying?
I studied during Christmas one year. I studied during the spring, which we did a spring break trip during both of those times, and I was like not doing it. And I guess it would be like 5 days you just don't study, no biggie, pick up where you left off.
And you felt like it wasn't a big deal because you had the process down. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that we've pretty much hit everything. You have an awesome story, Will. What would be your top 2 or 3 tips that you would give to people who are still going through the exams?
Okay. If you're still going through the exams, if you don't get your questions in that morning, don't beat yourself up. It's fine. Just do some more questions during the day and then make a plan the next morning to get up 20 minutes earlier so you can get those 20 questions in. Just don't beat yourself up. I feel like that's the worst part of studying is the anxiety that you put on yourself. So stop torturing yourself. Weekends are huge. So, wake up 7 o'clock, lock in, go to Starbucks. Okay. Get your black coffee on the app so you get free refills. And also, I was saying just have little things that you look forward to, like getting away,
have rituals,
getting your studying done. Yeah, have rituals, and but make your weekend study sessions really count, because that's going to be the difference between passing and failing. Those are my 2 big things. If you get those, don't torture yourself, and then lock in on the weekends. Like that's so much of it.
Right. And actually, I would say just one thing that I'll kind of add to your first point. I have seen that happen a lot where, even though people are using SuperfastCPA, they really beat themselves up over different parts of the process. And then they get like majorly stressed about it. And then they're too stressed to study, or they're not really learning very well when they're studying because they're too stressed. So just try to, of course, the CPA exam is stressful. I can't say it's not going to be stressful, but just take it as best you can and just let it flow, just go for it without worrying too much. That's kind of what I would add to that, but I like what you were saying with that. Yeah,
man.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being on the call today, Will. I don't think there's anything else is there anything else that you would want to talk about, like that was part of your journey that we haven't gotten to talk about yet?
Nah, man, let's keep it short and sweet.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, thanks for being on the call today, Will. It was awesome talking to you, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right, peace.
All right, that was the interview with Will, and I thought it was an awesome interview. I loved his ritual, his tradition that he had of each time he passed an exam, he drank more and more beer. I thought that was funny, and it was funny that was the bit that he had, that, an accountant who maybe is kind of uptight, kind of anxious, just kind of lets loose when he passes the CPA exams and drinks some beer. I think he was calling it mermaids and unicorns. Anyway, I thought it was a lot of fun to talk to Will, and again, he had a great story. It was awesome that he was able to pass each exam in about 8 weeks. He was able to pass all of them first try, and that was with him taking quite a long break between some of the exams when his son was born. And I think that's awesome. I think it's great that he was able to still take some time for his family, and that's kind of the whole idea behind SuperfastCPA, is giving these strategies to busy people who have families, who have work, who maybe even have school, so that they can still have those important things in their life while also passing the CPA exam. So I'm sure you found this interview helpful. If you did, make sure to like it and leave a comment in the YouTube video, or rate it in your favorite podcast app. Make sure to also go check out our SuperfastCPA training webinar on superfastcpa.com so that we can teach you in 1 hour the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam, And after you watch that, make sure you also check out becoming a Superfast CPA Pro member, because they get access to a lot of great stuff, including the full versions of our multiple choice question walkthrough videos for almost every topic in the CPA exams. So check all that out. Again, make sure to like the video and leave a comment, and we will see you in the next episode.